Hello, and welcome into this week's book club episode of Breaking Down Bloodline, a novel by Claudia Gray. If you're not familiar with the series, it is a book club. We read a couple of chapters every week and discuss them and get into the nitty-gritty. If you are unfamiliar with the series, you can go ahead and click here and it will take you back to the beginning. But with that, we're going to get into today's reading, which is chapters 20 and 21, which by my math, I think we have 5 weeks left of this book, which is pretty darn exciting. So we're getting right into it. So the most exciting part of the reading is the end of the second chapter, but I'm going to continue to talk about this book talk about what happens chronologically, but we'll see how fast we can get to the meaty stuff at the very end. Where chapter 20 picks up is Greer and Jaffa, and they're off on their mission. Basically, they are trying to pick up a bounty hunting job. So when they were on Greer's homeworld, they learned about, this ability to find different, less than scrupulous jobs, shall we say. So they've gone to this really swanky space station, and by swanky, I mean not swanky. The thing is barely floating in space, with the hopes of finding a key to everything that's going on. Greer and Jaffa kind of get into a teeny tiny little spat just because Jaffa is so excited, and Greer is kind of making fun of his recklessness, which continues the strange mystery of what's up with Greer, because Jaffa is thinking this doesn't make any sense. She's a pilot. Why would she be such a stick in the mud when it comes to this type of thing? The other thing that happens is while they're walking around, they notice a lot of people selling Imperial trinkets. Now, it's not just Imperial trinkets, it's trinkets with a bunch of other things. When I was reading it, it makes me think of, we have a county fair here, and sometimes when you go there, you can find a wall of decorative license plates, and sometimes there's dogs, and sometimes there's ponies, and sometimes there's cats, and sometimes there's a Confederate flag. And it's that thing of it's trivializing a thing that just seems like a whatever to some people and is not cool to others, right? Some people want to have this thing because it means heritage to them, or it means history to them, and it means danger to other people. And that was kind of the image that got evoked to me when they were talking about this. It's just like a trinket stand where it has Imperial logos. It's just stuff you would buy at an amusement park and not really think about it just because it seems cutesy. And it was the same kind of attitude that Leia had, thinking about Castrofo's Imperial helmets and stuff. So it comes down to this issue. Jaffa has the line of, it seems disrespectful to anybody who fought against the Empire to treat the Empire as if it's just a trinket. You can just sell it. Now, the irony is, of course, I have a Sith Trooper from The Rise of Skywalker here. You can't see it super well, but that's a picture of Kylo Ren. Yes, I'm wearing a Rebel insignia. This is the SHIELD logo from the MCU. I have more Kylo Ren behind me. I have an Orson Krennic Funko Pop. I have Kylo Ren's lightsaber over there. So it's basically selling Imperial stuff in the same way we would buy Imperial stuff. The difference is, of course, in our universe, the Empire is fictional. It's just a thing from a movie, and it's not a big deal. It does bother some people. I've seen online some people are worried about that sort of thing, and it is, sometimes I walk around, you may have seen on the channel, I have a shirt that's a Death Star on it, and sometimes I think I'm walking around in a shirt that, is a thing that blew up a planet. But it's fine because it's fictional. So I don't think it's a wrong thing to consider that, but I do think that in this case, it's just a movie. It's not that big of a deal. But it is comparable to how some people treat, like I said, there's a large debate in the United States about a Confederate flag and what should happen here. So it's very comparable in that regard. And to almost trivialize it in such a way as to imply that what the thing means is also fictional. So it's just kind of being an on-the-nose sort of way of discussing stuff that we're seeing today. I think it's an important thing to think about, and think about the message you're sending if you have too much of one thing or another, and how it can make other people uncomfortable. I believe in freedom of expression, but I also believe in don't be a complete I'll say jerk on this channel. If I was not on this channel, I would use other words. But don't be a jerk. Is another thing I really believe in as well. So it's just one of those things that's interesting to think about, and to kind of realize that when you are dealing with stuff that can be this personal to so many people, think about how it feels in the other person's shoes. You know, there's a certain point where people want there to be rules. I would like to think that we could not have to need the rules because we could be better people, but that is a very idealistic way of thinking. I know. That was the thing that was poignant enough that I thought it was worth bringing up, is this idea that Palpatine is treated more like he's a boogeyman now, and not this horrible evil Sith Lord that actually ruled over the entire galaxy. On a lighter note, just a thing that I found interesting is that it's a common trope in storytelling that you go to the bar to find a job. You know, in fantasy, you know, it's what happens in the cantina in A New Hope, is they need to find a pilot, so they go to find Han Solo. But here, you only go to the bar for recreation because the whole point of the entire station is to find work. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But they go to the electronic board, and it's literally first come, first serve. A job pops up, and you have to click on it as fast as possible. And Joff finds exactly what they want. That it's a job from Dascom 4 to Simbensko. I think Sibensko is how you'd say it, which is exactly what they need. It's connecting the two planets that they want. So now they have a way to kind of continue on this trail and figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, back on Hosnian Prime, Leia is tired. Leia is just over all of it. She's completely worn down from how politics is happening in the Senate. She is very excited to hear of Greer and Jaff's success, and it instantly energizes her, and she starts talking to 3PO. And 3PO notices, like, you sound like you're gonna go with them. Like, you sound like you're gonna make this a big work family trip. And Leia doesn't even realize that she was saying that herself. But she finds out that that's what she means. She's very excited to join them and kind of get back out into everything. And she says that they have to do this job soon because that way she can get it done before her campaign starts. It was kind of interesting that the job has a fairly open range. Like, you don't want to do the job too early. You don't want to do the job too late, but somewhere within there, that's all they need. It seems to imply that whatever they're transporting, they need soon, but not tomorrow, which is just a clue about the timetable. Leia says to 3PO, you know, I've been in danger before, why do you keep saying these things? And 3PO says, I just hope that eventually you would develop a better instinct for survival, or something like that. I just thought that was a really funny 3PO line and really telling of Leia. Also, meanwhile, on Hosnian Prime, Casterfo is keeping his skills up. He kind of caught the fighting bug again when he was fighting with the Amaxides, but he also realizes that he might need combat skills before this book is done. So he is sparring. When he's done sparring, he heads home and he gets a call from Leia. And he thinks to himself, like, you know, he's here just freshly back from the gym, Leia's in her house coat, and like how people would talk, but how that's not at all what's going on. And it's really just a sign of a close friendship. At this point in the book, we are seeing how much these two characters trust each other, lean on each other, how much they can count on the other person being there, and how much two people who both have reason to stand on ceremony have no standing on ceremony when it comes to each other. Leia fills him in on what's going on. He wants to be a part of the big family work trip as well, and it works because then they can have this bipartisan presentation. So they're off to do their probably illegal trip. Now, one thing I want to bring up here as I talk about this is something I talked about in the Aftermath series I did. I think it would have been in Life Debt because it was about Kashyyyk. Here we have two senators who are going to break the law in order to find a conspiracy. And I always find that in this case, it's that kind of protagonistic viewpoint that makes me excited, right? Because it's Leia and Casterfo, I'm so excited for them to go do this. If it were two senators I didn't know, I'd be like, what are you guys doing? If it were like my own senators, I'd be like, what are you guys doing? So I always find it interesting to like just stop and look at Star Wars and realize I like this because the good guys are doing it. And I think that's the fun of movies, is, you know, in life, we don't necessarily know who we can trust. You never know who's going to end up being that person that does the thing you don't like, or says the thing you don't like, or doesn't, you know, pay back all of the friendship that you pay them or what have you. Here, these are characters you believe you can trust. You know you can trust Leia, so whatever she's doing is the right thing, and it doesn't have to be murky and complicated. And it's just a very Star Wars-y thing, and it's something I like to think of when this type of thing goes on. Now we get into chapter 21, where they meet to discuss the mission that's going to happen. They're going to leave Corey out of this, so they think that she's too young, they don't want to get her involved, they want to give her plausible deniability. Never mind that she's already been described as around Joff's age, and apparently he's fine, but they don't want to take Corey or involve her in this. The funny thing that happens is Greer brings Port in the Storm. So this is the fancy drink that she had on her homeworld that she drank so Joff didn't have to drink it. And Joff was like, no, I can totally take it. So she brings in some and has Joff and Casterfo try it. She drinks it like it's water. Casterfo holds his own, but is definitely wrecked by it, and Joff is completely doubled over. He can't handle it at all. It's this really nasty stuff. Leia shows up. She won't even drink it. She says that Chewbacca is like the only person not from Greer's world that can drink the stuff. And 3PO says that Han keeps some around as like cleaning solvent, basically. That's how intense this stuff is. So with everything that's going on and all of the deep stuff, it was nice to have this cutesy kind of character fun moment for them. They come up with a plan for how they're going to run the mission, how all of them are going to go on it. Most of them have been seen one way or another by the Amaxines, so they come up with a plan to hide their faces, and Greer is still kind of slipping on lines about how she's sure this is a centrist plot and the centrists are behind it, and Casterfo has to deal with that. Later, Leia and Casterfo talk about whether or not it's a centrist, and it's just become this thing of how Casterfo has to deal with the fact that this could be a reality. And, lo and behold, it's a reality. Casterfo bumps into Lady Carisi, who's returned from Hosnian, and she was going to make this grand entrance, and she got delayed, and she couldn't, so she's already crabby. And she goes and makes a call to Hadrassian. This is after she bumps into Casterfo and is upset that Casterfo and Leia seem to be such close pals. It is during this conversation that not only do we realize she has a connection to Hadrassian, and to the Amaxines, and to Rin Ribbon D, and all of that, we also realize she's a part of the First Order! So if you're just reading this book, you know nothing about Star Wars, this is your first kind of entry into either Star Wars or the sequel trilogy era, you'd be like, what's the First Order? But we all know, oh snap, it's the First Order. This is not a mere conspiracy to have a crime syndicate, and maybe you guys knew this is where the book was going, or maybe you could guess. But this is a group of people that are trying to get money and a military because the First Order is coming. So not only are we seeing the political landscape of the New Republic, we're seeing where the First Order is coming from and what's going to happen. We find out that Carisi wanted the bombing of the Senate. Well, she wanted something to happen to cause a distraction. She didn't really want the bombing. The bombing was more than she asked for. She was hoping for just something that would ruffle a few feathers. So she's already upset with the Amaxines. We don't get any more word on who wrote the note, nor is it really brought up. So that still kind of remains a mystery, but we know that the Amaxines are behind the bombing. So she has to figure out what she's going to do. She has to stop Leia. Leia is getting too close to discovering their plans, and that's when she realizes she has Casterfo. And she knows that Casterfo loves the Empire, or the idea of the Empire, but hates Vader. And she has just found out who is Vader's daughter. So she thinks that she can use this information to get Casterfo to turn on Leia. So what we have here is Carisi, who has her big First Order plans, but she so respects royalty, which is such an odd thing about her. So she has to decide, is she going to break the royal seal and tell Casterfo the secret, or is she going to sit on this really important political information? And then the question from there is, if she tells Casterfo, what's Casterfo going to do? Because we've had chapter after chapter after chapter showing their good friendship. And this is kind of the one secret that Leia has kept from him. So, exciting things afoot. I've been so excited to talk to you guys about what's going to happen in this book yet, but I'm really happy that I can now mention that this is all moving towards the First Order. So this whole idea of has there been a centrist conspiracy or not? There is at least a conspiracy amongst some centrists to launch the First Order. Whether or not all of the centrists are involved in this or not remains to be seen. Certainly makes sense now that Carisi is the one that wanted to create the first senator. She wanted to have this more powerful role so that presumably it would be easier to transfer into the First Order. But considering that she's amassing an army, I don't think she's really expecting a peaceful transfer of power. But yeah, this book is pretty good. This is a big reason why I tell people if you're only going to read one new canon book, read this one, because this book does so much for explaining what is going on when you watch The Force Awakens. As a quick note, this is completely fortuitous. I guess it's what the Force would have wanted. I am recording this video today, and it will be releasing today on Carrie Fisher's birthday, which is appropriate considering this book is a big ol' book about Leia. So happy birthday to Carrie Fisher. That's all I really have to say about these chapters. Please leave me a comment letting me know what you think of the story so far. Follow us on all the socials if you haven't already. Almost forgot, for next week, go ahead and read chapters 22 and 23. We're going to continue reading 2 chapters at a time. And with that, I will talk to you all next week.